I'm Anne, and welcome back to Elizabeth Ann Reads. Today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up. I actually read 10 books in April, or completed 10 books in April, which I am pretty proud of. I think that's a good number. So we're just going to talk through those real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. But yeah, there were some really good ones in there. So the first 2 books that I read in April were actually ones I had started in March. So I completed, first of all, The Game by Laurie R. King. This is part of the Mary Russell series, which is a historical mystery series that follows a retired Sherlock Holmes and his apprentice. This is book, I think, 6 or 7 in the series, so I won't really go into detail. But this one is set in India, and it's a really good series. I highly recommend picking up the series. Start with the first one, The Beekeeper's Apprentice. But I really enjoyed this one. This is one of my favorites, I think, in the series. And yeah, I gave it 4 stars. And then I finished The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. I had never read this before. I've read Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights by the other sisters, but I had never read anything by Anne Bronte. And I loved this book so much. I thought Helen, the main female character, was so smart and so witty and so well-spoken, but she always spoke with grace. She was never harsh or snarky. She was just truthful and blunt, but always in such an elegant and graceful way. And I loved her. I want to be like her when I grow up. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I docked half a star. It would have been a 5-star book. I docked half a star just because I thought it wrapped up a little too neatly in the last chapter, which, granted, that's something that classics tend to do sometimes. But I would have just liked a little more of a drawn-out ending and a little less neat and tidy. But overall, I thought it was a fantastic book. Next up in the month was Dewey's 24-hour readathon, and I read 4 books during Dewey's. The first book I read was Pages & Co., Tilly and the Book Wanderers by Anna James. This is a middle grade that follows Tilly as she discovers that she can draw characters out of books and go into books. And she gets to be friends with Anne of Green Gables and Alice from Alice in Wonderland. So I just thought this was really cute, very imaginative. I really liked some of the characters. It has a great villain. So this was a 4-star book for me. And then I read The Wild Robot by, I can't remember the author, but the book will be here. And that is also middle grade. And it was super cute. I gave it 3.5 stars, I think. And it just follows this robot who washes up on this deserted island and has to learn how to live and survive on this island, and he becomes friends with the animals and learns how to talk to them, and just how they all kind of mutually help each other to survive. And yeah, I thought it was super cute. I would highly recommend that one as well. And then I finished off the 24-hour readathon with Rilla of Ingleside by Ellen Montgomery. This is the last book in the Anne of Green Gables series. This was a reread for me, and this one follows Rilla, her youngest daughter, and it takes place during World War I. So it's a coming-of-age story set during wartime, and it's really good. It's really sweet. I've read it several times. Recommend the whole series. 4 stars on this one as well. Hi, Anne from the future popping in here. I realized that I totally forgot to talk about one of the books that I read during Readathon, and that was Legend by Marie Lu. This is a young adult dystopian, and I was honestly not a big fan of it. I only gave it 2 stars. I didn't think the plot was very interesting. I didn't like the characters. But a big part of that is that I am not a fan of teenage romance. Just 2 15-year-olds in love is, I don't know. That's not something I enjoy reading about. It's not something I enjoy seeing in real life, honestly. So I think it just wasn't for me. I don't necessarily think it's a bad book. It just wasn't for me. But yeah, that was the 4th book that I read during Dewey's 24-hour readathon. The next book I read in April was Where'd You Go, Bernadette? And this follows Bernadette. She and her husband and their 12-year-old daughter live in Seattle, and Bernadette doesn't necessarily get along with people very well. She doesn't like to leave her house very much. and then her daughter requests a family trip to Antarctica. So they start planning this, and then Bernadette ends up disappearing. I liked this book. I thought it was very funny. I liked the characters. It had a little bit, not a little bit, quite a bit of sarcastic, kind of snarky humor, which I appreciate in the right setting. And I really enjoyed it. I read the first 200 plus pages in a day, but then I thought it fizzled out a little bit towards the end. The last 100 pages, I think, took me 3 days to finish. So it started really strong, and I enjoyed it. I did think it could have had a better, it could have maintained kind of its momentum through a little bit more. But I still really enjoyed it. 3.5 stars, definitely worth picking up and reading. After that, I read It Devours, which is a Welcome to Night Vale novel. And if you don't know what Welcome to Night Vale is, it's a podcast. It's very kind of absurdist and odd, and which is generally going to mean that I'm going to like it. And I did enjoy this. It's the second book in the series. The first one is just called Welcome to Night Vale, and the second one is It Devours. I did not like It Devours quite as much as I liked the first book, which is the opposite, actually, of what most people think. Most people like the second one better. I like the first one a little bit better. I still enjoyed the second one. I still gave it 3.5 stars. If you're not familiar with Welcome to Night Vale, I would not pick up these books. I would go listen to an episode or two of the podcast and see what you think. If you enjoy that, then I would definitely pick up the books. Again, they're very odd and very strange, but I enjoyed it. So yeah, 3.5 stars on that one. After that, I finished Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. And can I just say, if you have not read Brandon Sanderson yet, what are you waiting for? When I got about halfway into this book, I got so mad at myself that it had taken me so long to finally get to this. I loved this. It's high fantasy. I loved the way that magic works in this world. It's just so well thought out and detailed and so intriguing. I loved the characters. I loved just the unexpected twists, and it was so good. And I will definitely be going on very, very soon with the rest of the series and with the rest of Brandon Sanderson. And the last book I completed this month was I Married Adventure by Osa Johnson. This is a biography and autobiography. Osa and her husband Martin were photographers, videographers, explorers in the early 20th century. They were some of the first people to photograph and film different animals in Africa and different tribes, places that the world hadn't really seen or been exposed to yet. And this is Osa's autobiography of their time together. And this is just kind of an overview of just the different places they went and their adventures. And I thought it was so, so good. They're such fascinating people and just such interesting stories. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It did take me a while to read. I've been working at this for probably more than 2 months. But it's just because I was trying to read too many books at once, and I do that. But yeah, I thought this was really, really interesting, and I would definitely recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. So that is it. The 10 books I read. Yes, I know this looks like only 6, but the other 4 came from the library. So these are the books I read in the month of April. Let me know down below what you read in the month of April, what your favorite book was that you read in the month of April. I would love to hear. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.